finished The Darkest Minds. Don't know who wrote it. I'll put that there. That was a great start. But I finished it last night and it was, oh my god, exploded. I was planning on reading another book, starting another book that night that I needed to read, and I just couldn't. I knew it was just not going to happen because I had to take a couple 24 hours to process that book. And what happened? It has been a very long time since I have cried from reading a book, and this book definitely brought that out. In the last couple, maybe 20 pages? Maybe even 10. I could go, no, probably 5. In the last 5 pages. It was that bad/good. You know, like bad in this, like, bad for you, but good in the storyline. You know what I'm saying? This is the anti-spoiler section. So The Darkest Minds is about, for those people who haven't read the books, is about, there's this IAAN disease that goes around to children who just hit puberty, and if you don't die, you become a mutant. So like a ton of children die, and then those who survive are mutants and are taken away to camps, or at least most of them, unless they go into hiding or the parents try and protect them, by these things called PSFs, and they're called PSIs. And there are 5 different categories of different powers kids can go into. There can be blue, green, yellow, red, and orange. No, that was not in the right order, but, you know, like blue, move stuff with their mind, green, memorize things, red, can do fire stuff, yellow, use electricity, and orange can do stuff with your mind. So main character, Ruby, is an orange, but she disguises herself as a green through camp, and then she escapes, and things happen, and she meets people like Liam, Chubbs, and Zoo, their little group, and then they go to East River, which is like the safe haven for kids, but then turns out to be, and then bad stuff happens, and then we are left with a major cliffhanger, and it's very traumatic for the reader to experience that kind of emotion. But yes, so spoiler section is, anti-spoiler section just ended, and spoiler section is about to begin, so if you have not read this book, do not go ahead, stop, and come back later. Darkest Minds. I can't even begin. So, one negative thing I have to say. I love the book, but one negative thing. The main character, it's from first person. I think that's what it is. It's where you're internalizing her thoughts in the pages. So it was your typical insecure protagonist who didn't want to, like, you know, get too close to people, thought she wasn't worthy, kind of thing. And that really gets old really, really fast. So I really don't like it when that kind of thing happens in the book. But the storyline and the other characters and other things she did totally, you know, push that aside, but I just am not a big fan of insecure protagonists. I really just want a book where the protagonist is like, yes, I am going for this, and I don't care, and I am going to love the person I love, even if I can hurt them. I think in this book, the minor characters like Chubbs and Zoo and Clancy and people like that really, and Liam, I don't know if I consider him a minor character, they played a huge role in the dynamic of the book, because without them, they like brought the book to life. Like Chubbs, oh my gosh, I love Chubbs, because at the beginning of the book, I was like, you're mean and smart, Alec, did not like him, and then he got to be so nice and caring, and I loved him. And then with Zoo, this was a really cool thing for the author to do, was to give a silent character, which I thought was really interesting and I'd never seen before, like a main silent character. And I don't know, you just don't think of a silent character being that, like, impactful in the book, but really she did, and having a silent character bring so many different aspects into the book, like, it just had a whole different dynamic to, like, understand what someone was going through without their words, or listening to their thoughts because they weren't the main character. It was just really cool because Zoo was so sweet, and like the way you could have a whole personality for her, but she just didn't speak, and that I think is really hard to do in a book without any visuals like that. So good job, author that I don't know name of yet. One thing I found odd in this book, now comment or whatever if you agree or disagree, but the way that the characters were described with their clothing choices was really odd for me. I don't know, like, I did not picture Liam to have a red baseball cap. I just didn't find that to be, like, attractive or, like, his kind of style, but I know he's, like, from Texas, so I guess it is, but I don't know, I didn't. And then the way she described, Alexandra something is her name, the author. Anyways, the way she described Clancy, with, like, his polo shirt, polo collar popped, and wearing, like, sweaters and leather belts and tight all put together, and his hair is up. I just didn't think of him that way. I thought of him coming off, like, putting on the show of being humble and down to earth and not being all like, oh, I'm in a suit and tie kind of thing, or a popped collar. I think anyone with a popped collar, you just need to be, like, have warning about, because, like, that's just something a little off with that. One thing that I thought was really good with the author again was she kept referring back to the tracer, the little tracker thing that the Children's League had given them, which I thought was really smart, because some books that I read just don't refer to things and then they just pop back in and you're like, where did that come from? You have to, like, kind of remember again. And then they consistently, in this book, kept referring to her thinking about the tracer or tracker or whatever it's called. And then at the end, using it and calling the Children's League when Chubbs, oh my gosh, okay. Need a little sidetrack here, but when they were so close, you kind of knew in the back of your head, like, they were about to meet Chubbs' parents, and everything was going to be great, and they were going to, you know, like, keep moving on, and then he's like, no, let me go give Jack's dad his letter, which they had not read before. I mean, that's just stupid. Ruby made a valid point when she was like, well, what if we lose the letters, and then we could at least know what they said. No, that was just not something that they thought was, you know, needed to happen. So they go to the motel where Jack's dad is, and Jack's dad shoots Chubbs. Literally shoots him with a gun in the arm. And then everyone's freaking out because Chubbs is hit. And when they say in the book, when they shoot him and he's down, and I was like, Chubbs is... It was not okay. And it was very emotional. Like, I was getting really choked up when Ruby had him in her lap in the back of the car, and Liam was freaking out and saying, like, he needed to know the directions to the hospital, and then Chubbs was dying, and I could not deal. If Chubbs is dead, I know he can't be, like, because I literally would not read the series anymore, that would be the worst thing ever, basically. And then she calls the tracker people because she thinks that's the only way to save Chubbs, which I guess is realistic because Liam, like, broke the car down and he's like, I can fix it, and we all knew he couldn't, and Chubbs was dying. But then she goes with the Children's League. She, like, regrets doing it immediately, but then Liam thinks it's okay. And then, this is the one part of the book where I physically cannot think about for more than, like, 10 seconds, because it's just, you can't do that to somebody. You can't erase a character's memories of another character who they're in love with. Like, that's just not okay. Who does that? Who would do that? She always thought, like, oh, I'm going to be scared that I might erase myself from his memory, and you were like, you better not write that in the book. Like, that better not happen. But you kind of just assumed it wouldn't because she could control herself, I guess, a little more. She, like, cared enough to control herself. And then she goes and willingly, voluntarily, it's her own plan, erases herself from Liam's memory. I'm sorry if I'm getting a little worked up, but that's like erasing Edward's memories of Bella. Okay? That magnitude. It's like erasing Augustus Waters' memories of Hazel. You just don't do that. If John Green did that, that would not be okay. You just wouldn't be acceptable. And she did. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to, and then she persuades me not to, or I get interrupted and it doesn't happen. She successfully erases herself from his memory, and there is so far no way to put memories back into people's heads. So the entire book is erased from Liam's memory. That is just, I cannot deal with that. I'm sorry. That's all I'm getting worked up about. That's the part that pushed me over the edge, as you can see. The book overall had really poignant points. Example A, erasing memories. Example B, Chubbs getting shot. Example C, when Zoo leaves the camp. That was really, really emotional when, I just gotta calm down. When she leaves the camp with her friends to go to California, and you know that's not a good idea. They're in North Carolina. That's a really long trip. Not North Carolina, Virginia, wherever they are. And their goodbye, and Chubbs' goodbye, and how sudden it was, and how happy you saw her, and you just wanted her to have the best, but you knew something was going to go wrong, and then that was just really well written. That was a really great point in the book. That, and then also there were, like with Liam's memories being erased and Chubbs getting shot, there were a lot of things that I didn't think the author would have guts to do, like that weren't actually like things that were realistically capable of happening in the book. Like, there just weren't limits. You didn't know how far the author would go and what they'd make the characters do. Like, when Chubb said those awful things to Liam, you thought, like, that went so over the edge that it was, like, realistic in that way. Like, in some books, like, they insult them once and it breaks them down or whatever. But the way Chubbs tore apart and hit every single soft spot in Liam about him and killing all the kids at the camp and trying to be the one, like, being the leader in people, and, like, how he just wants to have power, which obviously we know is not true. He's trying to redeem himself, but Chubbs twisted it and made it sound like that's really what he wanted. And we knew that that's not what Chubbs thought, but in the moment, how he said it, and that's how we portrayed it and stuff, that was really, really, really poignant. Oh, and then when Ruby's at the beginning of her story, like not in the beginning of the book, but when we find out that Ruby actually erased herself from her parents' memories, that was a really hard thing to imagine and kind of wrap your head around, and like how she would deal with that, like how she dealt with that throughout the book, and like coming down the stairs on her birthday expecting her pancakes, and then her mom freaking out like, who the hell are you in my house? As a 10-year-old child, I think she handled that pretty well, thinking it was a joke. I mean, I don't know what the heck I would have done if that was my case, but that was something that was really poignant. Overall, it kind of went above all my young adult standards for how far the author would push the limits in this. It was really overall well written, and the things that she made the freaking characters do was so devastating and, you know, unheard of, that it was really like eye-opening, and a book that one of the books that, you know, a really good book that I've read, one of the best in a while. That is my little book chatter, I think I call it. I don't know. A book review of The Darkest Minds. I'm getting Never Fade tomorrow, so I will read that and get back to you on that. So I hope you enjoyed. Sorry if this is long. I'm Zoe. This is Stick by the Books. Comment, like, subscribe. I hope you enjoyed. Do what you gotta do. I will see you next time.